Wouldn't it be amazing to have a part of a vintage Spitfire or Lancaster in a watch? Well, it is possible thanks to Zero West. We've come down to the south coast today to talk to Andrew about Zero West's fantastic watch portfolio and, more importantly, discuss their participation in the British Watch and Clockmakers Show, which is happening in March. Prior to the British Watchmakers Day exhibition in March, we're visiting a number of UK companies, and we are delighted to be at Zero West today. Andrew, thank you so much for hosting us.
Richard, thanks for coming. Really appreciate it.
It's an amazing room we're in, and we'll talk about it later because we can't not. But the reason we're here is because the exhibition is coming up in March.
Yep, very exciting.
British Watch and Clockmakers Alliance.
Yep.
It's an inaugural event. So exciting. What does the show mean to you?
Oh, it means a massive amount. I mean, for us, it's been a focus since last summer, since we first started speaking to the team there, putting this whole show together. And I think for us, it's about flying the flag for British design, horology, British engineering, the whole watch industry as a whole, coming together en masse. We're going to see, I believe, brands like Roger Smith, Roger Smith, who's world renowned.
Well, he's sort of a brand.
Yeah, he's sort of a brand. Who I believe hasn't really done shows before. Yeah. And it's massively exciting to all be under one roof and kind of get that recognition. It'd be great. Really,
I think
exciting.
It's making a great statement on the sort of the global watch market that British Watch Limited, if there was such a fictional company, can stump up so many brands.
Yeah, and I think consumers would be surprised just how many there are. I believe there's over 80 members now of the Alliance that have put this on. And I think if you had to guess how many British brands there were prior to that, I think you would fall some way short. So it's great that, from small brands to large brands, are all coming together. It's such a lot of camaraderie within the horology and British watch industry. So excited to play our part and be there, and can't wait, really can't wait.
I think that's a really good point you make as well, is because it is the inaugural event, it's one of the sort of intrinsic importances of the show is bringing us all together.
Yeah.
Because it's something, we were briefly talking about it, oddly off camera a minute ago, that there are not that many events where we can holistically bring everyone together in this way. And that's why I think it's brilliant that the event has been arranged.
It's fantastic. And the fact that other brands that I've spoken to, that all, everybody's really keen to be there. Can't wait. And, you see them at different shows, obviously with brands that are, obviously other exhibitions with brands that are from abroad, but to actually have a solely British exhibition, especially this is in London. I mean, it couldn't be held in a bit, and the space where it's going to be exhibiting is fantastic. So the light, the whole atmosphere, it'll be an incredible day.
And you're bringing obviously a lot of watches for display.
Bring a lot of watches, and a lot of really cool things, which we'll get onto.
Talking of cool things, that segues beautifully into my next observation is where we're sitting today. This is, you call it the studio?
Yeah, the studio. It's an old boathouse.
It's it's an Aladdin's cave of cool, was the phrase I thought of last night. You have a plethora of stuff around us, but everything seems to have a story. You've got bits of Spitfires, bits of Lancasters, ejector seats, your Merlin engine, which no doubt there'll be some B-roll footage coming up right this second. How did you conceive this room?
Well, what happened was during COVID, we were fortunate that a lot of people who bought watches said, "Don't send them out. We want to come and pick them up from the studio." And I remember one Christmas, whilst I was stuffing my face with turkey, Graham, my business partner, who's an engineer, we'll talk about him later, but he 3D rendered the whole building, the whole studio, measured it all up, and created this amazing space. And we took the decision to really, if the website was bricks and mortar, what would it look like? And this is the vision. This is the dream. So it took quite a long time, longer than we wanted, but it was just really important to us that everything within all the touch points within this studio connected in some way to the stories and to the brands and to all the things that we believe in, both myself and Graham, which is detail. Obviously watches have a massive amount of detail. When you obsess about those sort of things, you will always be seeing stuff that you never saw before, even on your fourth or fifth trip, because it's just packed with, we got a bit carried away. But
I love the fact that the room is a physical manifestation of your website and your imaginations.
yeah,
It is, because every corner you turn into, apart from the wall, the amazing wall over there that's got obviously the entire portfolio on it, but every nook and cranny has got a piece of a downed hurricane or a piece of glass, or you don't really know where to look first, but it's beautifully conceived is the only way I could phrase it. It doesn't look crafted, if that makes sense.
yeah, and that was really important to us because with the medium that we're dealing with and what we do, it's very easy to be corporate or false. It can be portrayed as false, and both myself and Graham are obsessed with design and history and engineering, and we hope that comes across in everything that's in here. There's nothing's in here by accident. Nothing's placed anywhere pretty much by accident, and we have lots of touch points, and it's it's the same with the watches. When you spend thousands of hours designing a watch, quite literally, you want it displayed with the beauty and the credit that it deserves.
Especially when something we'll probably touch on later as well is that the backstory is so important to your watches, more so than many other brands I've been to. It is an integral part of the machine.
Yeah, it's massively important for us. I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on that in more detail later, but it's part of our brand DNA, so it runs very deep.
One of the things we were chatting about earlier, which I found really interesting, was the fact that you've created this wonderful room as a mechanism to have face-to-face with people. And this is something we've been writing about and filming quite a lot about lately, in that whilst we recognise we're all internet brands, that's an immovable feast.
Yeah.
There are a few out there who are still trying to keep the face-to-face interaction, and this must be a great platform for that.
It's fantastic because it represents, like I said, it represents all the values that both myself and Graham are passionate about. And, we have a lot of people that travel a great distance to come here. It's not unheard of for somebody to spend 3 or 4 hours driving. We get people that come from abroad, stay up in London and come down on the train. And you just want them to have that whole experience. A watch is I think we talked about this earlier. A watch is such a personal thing.
Absolutely.
And we want this whole the environment to have that feeling, and here we're able to talk about all the stories of how we design the watches, the brand, all the stories that go with the watches, how we engineer stuff, and regardless of whether they purchase a watch or not, they go away having had a great experience.
You hinted at a really good story a few minutes ago. Tell me about that in some detail now.
Yeah,
which was it was a face-to-face story.
It was. I mean, we have a vast range of customers from different backgrounds, and I remember during the week one day, a couple came in and they said they'd like to buy their father a 60th birthday present, a watch. They'd heard about the amazing watches that we make. Would that be possible? And the whole family were all going to contribute towards his 60th present. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. And then the conversation developed further, and I said it'd be really great to bring him in as a surprise. And at the end of the conversation, the outline was on a Saturday they were going to bring a cake in, and then on the Sunday they were going to bring him for a walk because it's beautiful walks outside overlooking the water. The blinds would be drawn of the studio, and then they would knock on the window at 11 o'clock. And I was here, poised, and true to form, as we'd arranged, there was a knock on the door, and I could hear the father outside going, "What are we doing here? It's shut." And I pulled back the blinds, welcomed them in, and we had the cake ready.
Wow.
There was like 6 of them. We all had tea, and then I presented them the present for his 60th birthday.
Right.
And he was just, and I live in the next road, and you just do what you can because that's what we believe in.
It's a fantastic story, and you really couldn't have done it without this room. And that story just typified to me the whole ethos of the creation of this room. It gives you a wonderful marketing opportunity. It gives people to kind of dig a little deeper into the brand. And it's interesting because when you look at some of the boutiques that some of the, quote, Swiss giants, unquote, have got, they're actually quite soulless, some of them, and they just feel like an extension of a shop.
Yeah,
I mean, fair play to you. This doesn't.
We hope that whole vibe is just exceptionally welcoming and a great experience.
I'd love to have seen that. So talking of the building here, there is another side to it, which is a technical side, which we were lucky enough to see in operation last night. I was genuinely surprised when we saw Graham making the straps by hand in his workshop. You've got a watch assembly unit. I had no idea this was so hands-on. It genuinely caught me off guard.
Well, I think what gets overlooked sometimes, because we're so big on the history, is the fact that myself and Graham, Graham's background is mechanical engineering, has vast experience, done a lot of work in the military and aviation. As an engineer, my background is branding, typography, specialised in typography. And collectively, when we started the brand, we felt we had the joint skills to give our own take. And that's why our case designs are unique to us. And that was really important when we set up. So everything gets designed in-house. We design everything here in CAD. We 3D print all the models beforehand. And then in the early days of the brand, we took the decision to learn how to, or Graham did, to take that journey on learning how to make the leather straps, which was, they're a work of art.
They're beautiful,
Yeah,
absolutely
beautiful. And also, not only do we make the leather straps in-house, which Graham makes, which are beautiful, Graham designed these amazing rubber straps, which come as standard on all our watches, vulcanized rubber. We 3D printed it to start with, and they really accompany the design of the watches that Graham designed.
Yeah.
And we did all the tooling for that locally. And then they're actually made up in Surrey at a place that does a lot of work for the MOD, which obviously everything that you do watch-wise has to be perfect, because which not all companies are used to doing. But after some tests and prototypes we got there, and they are beautiful. Even if you weren't normally a fan of rubber, because they're vulcanized, it's the real high-end stuff, really do look great on the watches.
Yeah, it was interesting because the H2 we had through for review, which we can put a link up to.
Yeah.
I was surprised when it came on rubber, because my instinct was going to be, it'll be antique leather or something that looks like it was part of a flying helmet or something. But you're right, it does work.
It gives it gives it more of a contemporary feel. It gives a different dimension to the watch, obviously waterproof. And also it was taking the pressure off hand making the straps, because we were getting a backlog.
It kind of also enhanced, I don't know if I'm reading too much into it kind of also enhanced the mechanical feel of the watch, the sort of mechanoid feel about it. The rubber felt like part of hosing or something that within an engine.
Yeah, very much so.
It really worked. It was not necessarily what you would have automatically thought, but it just worked. Yeah.
But I can't tell you how difficult it was to get the colours right, because when you choose a colour, you actually have to go for a slightly darker colour, and we found that out the hard way, because when you choose a colour, the company orders it in. And then if you change your mind, it's not as simple as just putting it back in the tin and putting it back on the shelf.
So you need to get it right first time.
You need to get it right. And it was really important to get vintage colours that would go across the range and give the brand longevity. So we've kind of got the British Racing Green, and we've got like the vintage blue. And they really do look cool across a variety of our watches. So yeah, it's not a nice thing to be able to have for the brand. And then naturally, what evolved in that is the fact that we've now set up a workshop. So all the watches are built in-house. And I think what's quite rare is all the parts, a lot of the parts for our watches are made in separate places. They all come here because we're a bit kind of micromanage everything from a quality control point of view. And then we basically build all the watches here, rather than send our designs out abroad and then 6 months later DHL turns up with a few boxes. And that's massively important to us as a brand. We're very vertically integrated, because our joint backgrounds are design. We're also self-funded, and a lot of the decisions that we make, I'm sure an investor may cringe at, but they're important to us. And I think this studio is a great representation of that. I'm sure, which is why it is the way that it is.
So you say your case designs are unique. Give me a little bit more on that.
So they're basically,
for people that maybe aren't so familiar with them.
So when Graham designed the case designs, it was really important not to have a Me Too brand and not be Marmite. And he designed, and it's very difficult to do because the watch world's a crowded space.
Sure is.
And he designed these beautiful cylindrical bodies with these DSL lugs that are sculptured. And all of our cases are designed on a 5-axis machine. And the reason why the lugs are made separately is it allowed us to mix finish, and it also allowed us some intricacy in the finishing that we wouldn't have been able to do had it all been stamped out. So, and also a lot of our case designs, they're made in aerospace facilities. So we have that kind of quality control
Yeah.
that's really, really important to us. And we've been able to do that because of Graham's vendor base and his background. So we've got these kind of beautiful DSL lugs, and we've also a couple of our chronographs. One of them is a stopwatch with a beautiful cradle. I'm sure we'll show some footage here. And so it was really important for us to have that identity. There's no point having all that design experience in-house.
And it's quite labour intensive though, because
massively labour intensive.
What people maybe can't see here because of the camera placement is
you're
not a huge team.
We're not a huge team, and our price point is around the Tudor price point, and that often comes up in conversation. And I think if you're looking for something that's beautifully engineered, and often a lot of our watches are produced 50 or 100 run, they're really small quantities. Almost for a larger brand, that would be prototype quality. So they're really unique watches. And then obviously there's the history. So
absolutely. And I think there is a sort of very complete package around the watches.
Yeah.
I think you've got, for me as a watch enthusiast, you get the unique design concepts. The fact that you can come in here and you can interact with the people who actually did it.
Yep.
Can't even begin to stress to you how rare that is and what a privilege that feels. Then you've got the incredible backstory where you've got a Lancaster hanging above our head here at the moment. And there's just this very holistic package that you buy into. And I think it's been really well crafted, that.
And you're right. I know those points are all, where else can you go and talk to the designers who actually designed all the watches that you're looking at? And
knocking on the door of Rolex and saying, can I chat to the guy who designed the Explorer? It's not going to happen.
And I think that's why people make the pilgrimage to come here.
It's a good word.
Do you like that?
Yeah, it's a good word. Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
And it feels like that. I mean, recently we had there's a Facebook group run by a great guy, Simon Carter, and he organised an evening here, and there was 30 people came, and 2 people drove down from Newcastle. We had people coming up from Plymouth, and it's there's a lot of passion and for the brand.
You've got a loyal following. You've got a group that is kind of self-perpetuating, I can imagine. Yeah, and
it's really important to facilitate their passion for what we do.
And do they collect here? Is this like
they do. We very much so. They compare models,
spiritual home here.
Yeah, right. Well, you see them outside taking photos of themselves with the sign, and
how wonderful.
And stealing beer mats that we've got because we do special ones, and
that's on record.
But it's great to be recognised in that way.
That's wonderful. Now, my next observation is more of I don't think there's a predefined answer to this one. It's, how do you define Zero West? I was trying to work on this last night and thinking of different answers. And I'm not going to answer for you, but I was thinking about the precious metal concept we spoke about yesterday, the respectful side you kind of have to observe because of what you're doing.
It's massively important.
What defines the brand, if that is even answerable?
It's a number of things. I think it's the unique case designs that are beautifully engineered in small quantities that house historic material from the past. A watch without a story, as we say, is just a watch. And
amen to that.
Zero West, the name was taken from 0 degrees west, which is the prime meridian. It runs through Greenwich. Our first watch was the longitude, which was based on Harrison's H4, paying homage to the horology and British engineering. And as a result, all our watches have a latitude and longitude on the dial and a date code.
Right.
And when you cross-reference the two, they mark a moment in history. And we have a really strict DNA where every watch commemorates a British engineering achievement, be it the birth of the Spitfire, land speed records. There's a human element to humanise the story, which is really important for us. And then there's an event and a place. And we take those attributes, what happened, and bring those design and the story all to the watch. It was really important because when we set up the brand, we'd see pilot watches. Both myself and Graham have been mad watch collectors for years. And we just felt that, they would call it this watch or that watch, and it was in name only.
Right.
But it's really important to us as designers to give it the seriousness that the topic deserved, and you have to tread a very fine line of being historically accurate and also honour those that have gone before, and also wrap that up in a beautifully engineered timepiece, which is why it's very important for myself and Graham to handle all aspects of that here at the Boathouse.
You're giving yourself quite a tall order on it, because
we've done it the hard way.
I was going to say, you've not gone out to make it easy, because I think, when I was looking at the watch that had the bit of the Lancaster in the back of it, and this is something we should briefly touch on. You've got these amazing discs in the watches, which were part of a World War II fighter, for example, and we'll talk about the Flying Scotsman later. It does add a third dimension or a fourth dimension to the watch. The fact you actually have a part of that machine, and it's quite emotive when you first see it on the back of the watch. There's a little part of you who thinks, "Gosh, this is not a gimmick. This is real."
Yeah, and I think that's the skill that we've tried to. Well, it's been our mandate is to treat that with the honour, and that's why it's so important that the watches are engineered to such a high standard, because we are very much into horology, and it's a balance between the two, and people love talking about their watches and stories, and I think it just captures the whole imagination. So, you could buy a pilot watch that's name only, that's produced in the thousands, or you could buy a pilot watch that's produced, in very small quantities down on the south coast with historic metal in them. Tough choice.
I don't think it's that tough myself, but I'm slightly biased after my wonderful day here yesterday. Now, it's really interesting. You touched on the fact that neither you and Graham are from the watch industry.
No.
And we were laughing about that earlier. None of us in the watch industry are from the watch industry. We've all kind of stumbled into it somehow. But you are now, I think, very established on the market. I mean, you can see that you've got a really firm foundation now. What was the principal route you went through to achieve where you are now?
Well, I think it was relatively well. Graham had a 7-year plan when we met up, and it was about developing high-end quality watches and developing a brand. And the brand was really important to us. You can design a watch, but you need to design a brand around that. Yeah. And then what was so important to us was the authenticity around that brand, and that the marketing was real. And that took. It took us 3 to 4 years. The first 3 years were designing prototypes. We 3D print stuff. We had some issues trademarking the logo from a global brand, which is a whole story episode in itself. But it's those sort of challenges that you come across. And I think the fact that we're vertically integrated, myself and Graham come from different backgrounds, it was massively exciting, and it still is massively exciting, because we gel really well together, and yet we're very different people. Our experiences are very different from different backgrounds, and I'd like to think that you can see that in everything that we do. So it's been.
You also briefly touched on the fact that you haven't got a big stack of investors sitting behind you, and I think the phrase we used was hard graft.
Hard graft. Yeah, very much.
And I'm sure that were there times. I mean, there's nobody listening, don't worry. Yeah. Were there times when you thought, "What have we done?" Because there must be so many people think, I want to start a watch company. I'd love to do it. What would you say to those people?
I always say it's like being a professional athlete. You see the Olympics and you see the good bits, and everybody's sitting at home going, "Oh, I'd love to do that." The getting up in the morning, the missing social events, going away for weekends, working late at night, and then you have this whole thing where you'll get a prototype back, and you may be happy with it, or you may not be happy, or there may be things you want to change, and that has a knock-on effect. And then you have such high standards that they can actually be restrictive. I mean, the great thing is myself and Graham, we're very vertically integrated. I design the website in-house. Graham designs all the watches. We work together on the dials. There's so much that we do in-house, and whilst that's great, it's also makes us, we're very intense on everything that we do.
Right. Okay.
Which has benefited us, but that's seen us through the hard times when we started, because it was a lot. It's not for the faint-hearted.
I can only imagine.
Not for the faint-hearted. But one of the great things is I get to come and do interviews like this, and we meet so many interesting people from around the world. And when you phone them up to tell them their watch is ready, it's not like you're a double glazing salesman.
Everybody's pleased to hear from you.
They are soup. They take days off work. Never think that they're not. They're and to be able to facilitate that is massively rewarding. on so many levels.
That's a bit like you're saying you're just seeing the 100-meter sprint. You don't see all the training that went before it.
It's like an iceberg. You just see the tip and, everything.
But that's lovely that the customer just sees that. That's what they should see, I suppose. There's a good argument that they just want to come in, feel like they're the most special person in the world, enjoy this incredible room, get their watch, walk out, and you think, I've done my day's work. That's it. That's what it's all boiling down to.
They've got a passion. The price. There's a lot of competition at our price point, and so we never take it for granted. Never take it for granted. Yeah.
So, next thing then. Let's talk about the Science Museum.
Wow, that was a surreal day.
I was going to say, I'm going to say nothing more.
Yep.
Well, Tell us about the Science Museum.
Well, Graham gets a phone call and he comes down the stairs from the back and he goes, guess who that was? And I've got no idea. And he goes, that was the Science Museum. They want to come and see us. They want to talk about a project. It's the centenary of the Flying Scotsman. They've done a lot of research on us and they're looking for a British brand that will be able to work with some historic material and give the kudos to the project. And we're all about telling stories. So we said, I can't believe it, that'd be great. So they came down to see us and we had several meetings with them. They knew everything about us. It wasn't just picking a British watch brand. And
a bit scary.
It was a bit scary. And then they gave us some boiler tube and we had to go through a whole process over 6 months of trying to work with the material because it was really, really challenging.
So when you say they gave you a bit of boiler tube?
From the Flying Scotsman. We were very fortunate. We were invited up to King's Cross to be able to go onto the locomotive, the famous locomotive, when we were talking about the project in the early stages. And then they sent, during a refit, they sent some boiler tube down to us, which when we looked at it, Graham just looked at me and, all the projects we've worked on, it was probably one of the most challenging. Because what we had to do was actually clean the boiler tube, but without kind of cleaning it too much because we wanted for it to keep a lot of its patination. And then we had to slit it and then we had to hammer it flat. Now, hammering it flat took around an hour and a half to 2 hours. This is just this one piece. And then it was welded to a plate and then it was skived off to 1.2 millimeters thick. And then it had to go to another company that had a 20-ton turret press to cut out the discs, to stamp out the discs. And then it went to another company to engrave the cab number on. So there were about 3 to 4 companies involved in that whole process. And what's so great is that a lot of those companies were local to us, that we've got great connections with for other projects we've worked on. And when you call them up, they are so excited. It's just like, oh my, they're as excited as us. So normally when you call up and if you had a normal project, they'd say, it'd be a couple of months before we can slot it in. They kind of down tools, you go and see them and they want to be part of that process and all up for the challenge, which is a great British spirit that as a brand we're all about. So,
well, it sort of typifies everything we've been speaking about earlier, doesn't
totally.
it?
You bring all these people together and it's great. And so for us over a period of time, and what was great about that project was the conditions were that we wanted to design 2 timepieces, and whilst we knew they had to approve them, that the influence that they had on it was more from a historically accurate point of view and not from a design. So we did one watch that was based on the pressure gauge and speedometer from the cab, which was a white silver dial. And that we used a new dial manufacturer on the Swiss-German border. We flew out to see them because of the challenges of making that dial. It had applied black chrome numerals and it was a white silver dial. It was beautiful. And it had this internal flat ring that was radially brushed with inset screws. Very difficult to manufacture. And then the other one that we did, which was more of a contemporary dress watch with Roman numerals, was based on the famous clock on Platform 8 at King's Cross.
Okay.
So that was more of a, it was an alternative. And in the back of the watch, under reverse printed sapphire crystal, is the disc displayed, each one different. And
well, of course, every disc is. We didn't really stress that every disc in every watch will, of course, be different.
Yeah, by its makeup, and yes, it's stunning to be able to display that. And again, those watches feature the latitude and longitude of the Doncaster works and the date code, and we've put this little beautiful Union Jack. Which is also on the Roman numeral watch, which the watch has been reviewed several times, and the reviewers go, shouldn't really work, but it works. And so, very fortunate to have had that kudos of a national organisation like the Science Museum part of the National Railway Group to be recognised and to work with, which was fantastic. And I'm sure it's opened up the door with the connections we've got there for some future projects.
So you've gone from a position where you're designing a watch, then you're finding bits of a Spitfire in the ground, to now having the Science Museum contacting you. Are you where you want to be? Or have you exceeded where you thought you'd be? Or
no, I think we're
still hungry.
We're very hungry. We've got a roadmap, and obviously there's a bit of flexibility in that. We work, believe it or not, almost 2 years ahead, because sourcing the material, validating that material, doing tests on that material, and design. And because we do everything, we're ideas rich and time poor. So we have to be pretty strict with the time that we have, and we're trying to change the way that we work. So that we can streamline bringing new watches to market. And it's massively exciting for us. We get calls frequently from organisations who want to work with us. And unfortunately, some of those projects we just have to turn down just due to time and commitment that we've got internally to future projects. But it's very exciting. It's
absolutely. I'm caught up in it. It's wonderful.
You're almost running to work in the morning. Weekends, but it is a 24 obsession thing. It's
I think that's important to stress that.
Yeah, it's very much. There's no, we get guys from the phone trips over from here to my mobile, and late at night, somebody from Canada will call me, and then after 10 minutes, they'll suddenly realise what time it is and apologise. But they're massively grateful to. There's nothing worse than when you email somebody, a company, and then you get an automated response that says, "We hope to get back to you in the next 48 hours." It's just
lost interest. Move on.
Yeah. So if somebody's taken an interest, you want to help facilitate that.
So going full circle to where we started, we're here because we're in the build-up to the British show in March.
Yep.
What can we expect from Zero West at the show?
Well, we are bringing 2 custom special watches, one-off watches. Two.
Literally just 2 watches?
2 watches, one of each. So we've got a pilot watch,
right,
which is a 41mm blackout Lancaster watch with material in it that flew on Operation Chastise. So we haven't done a 41mm blackout, and that's got the historic metal in the back, and that is just a one of one, just for sale at the show.
What makes it unique? Is it the blackout?
It's the blackout. It's the blackout and the case. It's
one that looks like that.
No, we have got it here. I will give you a sneak peek of it. But
off camera.
Well, you can have it on camera. But yeah, that's 41 mil, and that's it was a shame because when you build something and you think, I quite like that myself.
I should have done 50 of those.
Should have done 50 of those. So that was a one-off. And then we've got the Roman numeral FS2 Flying Scotsman. We've done a custom version of that, and that is really cool because that's now it was predominantly in a complete polished case before, and it's now in a black case with polished lugs, and we've done some other customization to it as well, and that will be a one of one, only available from Watchmakers Day.
And these 2 watches are for sale?
Are for sale, just at the show. Just at the show.
Excellent.
So
we'll have both.
they've already gained a lot of, when we've been speaking to people about it, and I'm sure there'll be some people hopefully camping out, but
I suspect as soon as they go up on display, there'll be a WatchGecko camera thrust right at them.
You're always welcome. So, and we've got some other really cool memorabilia, and we also always design. Graham designed it. This beautiful exhibition display, a mobile display that we take with our own lights and everything, all beautifully engineered with aluminium wing spars and wing profiles. That's become synonymous with the few shows that we do because we only do a few. And it's great to meet people and meet the other brands as well. It's always really exciting to hear what they've been up to.
Thinking more broadly then about the industry, how do you, as a professional in it and as an integral player in it, how do you see the British watch industry at the moment?
I think it's really buoyant. It's growing. I mean, one thing that is great is that British design is world renowned, and I think you can see that across the board. And it's great that it's a growing industry, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic for the whole industry, and to be recognised. And I think it's outside of Switzerland, it's strong. So very proud and privileged to be part of that in the way that we are.
I think if you took the show in March as a barometer of the industry, it's a really healthy indicator, because the show fundamentally wouldn't be happening unless we had this cohesive, strong industry. And I think this show will act as a catalyst to project the industry only in a greater way.
Totally. I think even the brands that were going are going to be taken aback about how big that the industry that they're in, that shows they either haven't been to, how big it actually is.
It's going to fire everybody up. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. You know, and you know, talking of shows, it's just it would be great if there were some satellite shows from this show, which I think would be great. One in the north, and maybe one further. You know,
I
maybe
can't see why there wouldn't be.
It'd be great. We'd be all for that.
Absolutely. So we've got the special editions coming to the show.
Yep.
Obviously. With luck, at the end of the show, they'll have been and gone. What's next for you with regards to designs? What's next for the company? Where does the next few years take you?
We're always continuously designing. Graham's always working on new watch designs. We've got 3 new watches coming out this year,
which I'm sure you can tell me nothing about.
I can tell you absolutely nothing about. And part of the reason why that is because one is we like to build up the suspense
for sure
through some structured marketing, but also because it's kind of a bit fluid. If there was something that we're really not happy with, and this is the difference between, I think, an investor and myself and Graham. An investor would go, "Is there anything wrong with the product?" And we go, "Well, no, but it's not how we wanted it." They would go, "Fine, look, we need to get it out. We've got a schedule." That's not how we work. We you know, it's our name on it, and we're massively passionate about that. And I would never want to look at a watch after it had gone out and thought, "Oh, we could have done that better, or we could have done that differently." So that's really important to us. So nothing's necessarily set in stone, but some really exciting stuff.
I can't wait.
You know, Graham went to see something. It was great. He went to see some material once, and last year he had to go up north. And he said to me, I walked into this little room, and there were like the guys in there, and we were chatting away for half an hour, and then I went into. They opened the door, and I went into. It's difficult to describe. He said, I was speechless. He said it was like, because and what I mean by that is there was this small room, and then there was this. I can't call it a big room because it's not a room. It was a space that was just the size of several football pitches. And that's all I can say. And he showed me some photos, and it was like, and this was what was so hard when we did the Lancaster project. We knew about that for a year and a half before. It was torture.
Yeah.
Absolutely, especially because people come in and go, "Oh, you should do this or theme watch," and it would be like, "Oh, just can't talk about it." You know, it's just such a relief when we finally do get to launch a watch on a theme that we know so many people are passionate about. But you know, it's exciting. It's exciting. Yeah,
it's exciting.
It's cool. It's cool.
Andrew, thank you so much for letting the WatchGecko YouTube channel invade your wonderful offices.
Appreciate you coming down and looking around, and hopefully you should capture some great footage of some.
Can we come back?
You're always welcome. We always got beers in the fridge.
So thank you so much.
Hey, anytime.
We'll see you. Can't wait for the show.
Looking forward to it. And come over and look at those custom specials.
What a great chat. It was fascinating to hear what Zero West are planning for the show and to see some of their new watches. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we look forward to seeing you at the British Watch and Clockmaker Show in March.